Okay, so I have spent the last 5 weeks pretty much doing nothing except playing Tears of the Kingdom and getting COVID for the first time, which has somehow made me less useful than a loaf of bread, and so in an effort to make a video on that experience to reasonably justify all the time I sunk into that game, a nagging question arose in my mind that at first felt frivolous and redundant, but also was kind of difficult to answer. That being, is Breath of the Wild a bleeds now? Because let's be honest, Tears of the Kingdom pretty much does everything better than Breath of the Wild. It's like no contest. However, it's not completely cut and dried. There are a few things that I do believe Breath of the Wild does better than Tears of the Kingdom. Hot take incoming! Or lukewarm, I honestly don't know what the cultural temperature is, but I do think the shrines are better in Breath of the Wild. I was really glad to see that shrines were back in this sequel, and an upgraded 152 at that, because honestly they were some of my favorite parts of Breath of the Wild. A good brain teaser to sit and tinker with made finding one randomly whilst exploring the wilderness a delightful treat. The visually pleasing orange and teal combo was the aesthetic cherry on top. So what about those from Tears of the Kingdom? Bland. Well, sorry, a greenish bland. I love that Eventide Island gets an honorable reprise in the form of the Proving Ground shrines. Those are a delight. But I found the puzzle-centric shrines to be either insultingly easy, boringly simple, or this one. You're telling me that I could have just used a bomb arrow this entire time? Oh my god, you unbelievable! However, apart from a handful of genuinely fun ones, I think the reason why most of these shrines didn't tickle that same itch for me was due to how Breath of the Wild's abilities were just better suited for puzzle solving. Say what you will, but once you have God mode abilities that let you rewind time and move through the ceiling and pick up and fuse together practically anything in the room, those lack of restrictions make it a bit more difficult to create puzzles for. I think they're better suited for navigation and problem solving in the open world, as well as terrifying the living daylights out of every NPC in the game. With Magnesis, Stasis, Cryonis, and Kaboom! They offered enough wiggle room where you were less likely to cheese the entire puzzle, and naturally were more apt for puzzle solving in their inception. And lest we forget the champion abilities. Show of hands, who wishes Revali's Gale was back in the game? Yeah, everyone. While I think having summons is actually really cool, and even their abilities are pretty neat, the key point of difference I find between the two are how they affect the player. Tears of the Kingdom, you have to activate a certain ally in the menu, then go up to them and press A to prepare their abilities for you, which can be very annoying in certain combat scenarios. Basically, it's their abilities that you are kindly forcing them to use for you. Breath of the Wild, each ability is cleverly hidden behind distinct button prompts. For example, Revali's Gale can be activated just by crouching for a few seconds, Daruk's ability just by using your shield, Urbosa's Fury by just charging up an attack for a few seconds like you've always done, and Mipha's Grace by sucking ass.
It is my pleasure.
They are effectively your abilities to use, not some secondary power that you have to ask your friend for. Okay, and what else? Kaas? And yeah, that's honestly about it. We can just roll on to the next. Okay, look, it's no surprise to anyone that Tears of the Kingdom takes every aspect of Breath of the Wild and one-ups it to the power of a million. Weapon durability was fixed with the fuse mechanic that not only added ability technology from your list. So much has been overhauled and retuned and perfected that, let's put it this way, Breath of the Wild is the Gloom Dredger, Tears of the Kingdom is the Hover Doom Mark III. Oh my god. We could be here for hours just listing every single improvement. However, there are a few examples I want to mention that personally impacted my experience. The first? Caves. Discovering a cave in Tears of the Kingdom is like finding a Kinder Surprise in your lunchbox. They are perfectly peppered across Hyrule and act as beautiful little nuggets of surprise. Whether it's ores or the senseless murdering of bubble frogs, which is funny to me that a Satori shows you where they're hiding, but I feel that's not to authorize what you do when you find them. Geological spectacles, pitch black environments, armored treasuries, exclusive enemies, whole actual shrines. Caves always offer a rewarding incentive. Hyrule from Breath of the Wild can be barren at times, but caves are the perfect addition to easily flesh out the surface and make exploring it that much more exciting. The second? Okay, look, I really tried my best to defend the blights from Breath of the Wild. I know they all pretty much looked the same and operated mostly in the same fashion. Shout out to Thunderblight, he's my boy. And sure, the dungeons all looked mushy and were mechanically forgettable, but I argued that they still functioned as a finale to your experience in that particular region. Breath of the Wild's focus was on the exploration of Hyrule, with a lot of its production being targeted towards that experience. And so, once you felt done with your time in a region and wanted to tackle the big beast lurking around, you could do that and, you know, it would function. But I'm sorry guys, I just can't do it anymore, alright? There's no comparing the two. I mean, have you played this shit? You have to understand, I am a Breath of the Wild fan first, Zelda fan second, with that game being the only one in the franchise that I completed all the way through and enjoyed. And so, the blights were my only real exposure to what a boss fight in a Zelda game could be like. And at the risk of sounding a bit gross, when fighting the bosses in Tears of the Kingdom, I bogged my pants, dude. I mean, soaring, swimming, sliding, and side-eyeing around these gigantic beasts in Breath of the Wild in order to authorize them a chill pill still feels really cool, especially getting that close to witness their monumental scale, but unfortunately, those preambles still felt a bit too repetitive. Now, it's no longer, oh no, there's a scary monster over there. It's now, Jesus Christ, all of our food is gone, we're snowed in, the village is abandoned, all hope is lost. You get to organize a battalion to fend off these Gibdo dudes from invading Gerudo Town to presumably exsanguinate Lady Riju. You finally get to fight Yunobo, who is just clearly not himself, and you get to ascend inside this frosty apocalypse to ultimately get inside this mysterious suspended tornado. And there's this beautiful moment where you breach the surface of the storm and look out to see a beautifully clear landscape surrounding you, with your only two options being to nope right out of there or to descend into the center of the storm. And you know, water stuff is there too, so you know, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. And the temples themselves, man, oh my god, they are so much more navigationally intriguing. It feels so much more rewarding and refreshing to explore these diverse environments rather than feeling like I'm stuck inside a taupe McDonald's play place. And then you get to the boss fights, oh boy! 5, 6, 7, 8! Does this look bad on camera? God, it's so good! The best testament I can give to these new bosses is that I have never smiled as much while fighting one since I was a wee lad, and a big part of that I credit to tolerating the blights for 6 years of my life. If I can go a little Dr. Seuss on you, it is like night and day finally getting to see how characteristically independent the bosses can be. I didn't write it that way, I didn't mean for it to be a Seuss rhyme, but look, you gotta seize the day in this stuff, you know? I mean, look at the Muktarok! He's freaking adorable! I mean, he'll rip you to fucking shreds, but don't you just want to give this little guy a hug? These bosses were so much fun that in a game that is so dense in places to explore and things to do and collect, I was just as eager to continue with the main story. Gone are the days of Breath of the Wild where the blights were just another thing on a checklist. Instead, I felt so much excitement that they became some of the highlights of the entire experience. And because of this, these sections actually instill so much more emotional evocativeness into the game that it paces the story out beautifully and immerses me so much more into the stakes of my journey. Seeing the school in Hateno Village, helping Lurelin Village get back on its feet, fighting alongside the scattered operations of the monster control crew, I suddenly became way more invested in the emotionality of this world, because now the stakes are effectively grander and joyously more intriguing. We helped this kid make his friend smile as he played his flute atop a glowing tree of fireflies. And that's like one of the most emotionally resonant 20 seconds of the entire game for me. These heightened emotional stakes superseded that desire for immediate gratification in order to appreciate the moments that otherwise might have easily been overlooked and shelved away. And a huge factor in that is also from what Breath of the Wild gave me first. Having played Breath of the Wild first and fallen in love with its gameplay incentives and mechanics made settling into its sequel feel almost second nature. It was blessed for success from minute one by giving me the opportunity to re-experience Breath of the Wild again. Breath of the Wild established this version of Hyrule, and, for a lot of us, our familiarity towards it. And the way Tears of the Kingdom works with that mold to shape something new made returning to this world all the more emotionally impactful. And here is my best example of that in action. Alright, so it was 3 a.m. and I had just rescued Zelda's golden horse after fighting an ice Gleeok and had stationed myself at Snowfield Stable before I was ready to log off for the night. But I didn't want to leave. There was something about the comforting familiarity of the stable theme playing, whilst nearby the stable heroes contributed their unique musical flair on top. Watching snowflakes wistfully sprinkle across the chilled landscape, only interrupted by the warm glow the stable emitted out into the endlessness. It gave me a few precious seconds where I was completely lost in the moment, unable to find any desire to do anything else. And it was perfect. To me, it was one of the moments that combined the thrill of a new adventure with all the memories I've gained over the years from its predecessor. And that's really when it clicked. Tears of the Kingdom is a game of excess complemented by a predecessor of sparsity. So much more is going on. More collectibles, side quests, side adventures, places to explore. Many characters have noticeably grown and changed, as well as similar evolutions in the landscape, like visiting a bustling Terry town or traveling to the 7 heroine statues only to see them halfway buried into the sand. So, on the one hand, I view Tears of the Kingdom as the best Breath of the Wild game to date. It is the ultimate version of that experience. However, Breath of the Wild's novelty has kind of matured because of Tears of the Kingdom. Regardless of its comparative primitiveness, Breath of the Wild still gives you a unique experience by showing you the desolate world that came before its revival. It offers a window into a less crowded and impoverished Hyrule and exercises an appreciation for the emptiness and characteristically bespeckled landscape. Now, I feel the less that Breath of the Wild appears to bring to the table is one of its greatest strengths, because it gives an opportunity wholly unique to itself, but one that also thrives when coupled with Tears of the Kingdom. One does not render the other obsolete, they support each other. Whichever you prefer is up to you, but I think Breath of the Wild still has an important story to share. Plus, dude, that was like my favorite game for the past 6 years. I can't just easily give that title up to Tears of the Kingdom. It just wouldn't feel right. But goddamn, that game was so good! So what's the moral of the story? Drink more fucking water, I guess. Good golly, what a glow up. This is you, and this is the Ganon she tells you not to worry about. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. It took me a little while to make it and release it, but I'm glad that it's out now and I can breathe a sigh of relief. And feel free to let me know down in the comments what your favorite moment of Tears of the Kingdom was. You know, the moment where it made you realize that this is actually a pretty good game. And a special thank you as well to my lovely patrons. Remember to keep smiling whenever you can. Take care of each other. Thank you so much again for watching. That's the video.